He takes the timeout. They're out of timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul.
It is Monday of Thanksgiving week. It is 4:22 here on the West Coast. 4:22 exactly local time. So there's some good college games going on today. The rest of the day, I think UCLA Creighton might be happening right now. Texas A&M, Oklahoma State, Wisconsin Baylor a little later. Your Tar Heels playing at Stanford.
At Stanford.
But we're going to record the podcast anyway. Tate has to get on a flight, go back home for Thanksgiving. All right, let's introduce ourselves. Tate Frazier sitting across from me. My
What's
name's
up,
Mark
world?
Titus. Producer Kyle's in there. He's ready for Thanksgiving.
Kyle is definitely asleep right now. He had a big birthday weekend, and we're not even sure he's alive. So if you hear some things this week and you're like, wow, I can't believe they got away with that. I can't believe they were allowed to say that. Like, was there any editorial judgment there? It's because producer Kyle's asleep, and we get to say what we want. So this is going to be a special back edition of One Shining Podcast. We got a lot to say, a lot to talk about.
We do. We did a podcast on Friday, and the concern, Tate and I met yesterday. I came over to Tate's place to do some laundry.
I love how you feel as if we had like this great meeting. It's
Well,
like you
sounds,
had to do your laundry.
That's like what respectable programs do. Like if you have a good, like if you're a high level podcast, you're not just two guys talking. Like there's like some sort of very
Pre-production,
serious thing
something
going
like
on.
that.
Yeah, like we're doing pre-production meetings and I had to do my laundry. The place I'm staying at out here does not have a laundry facility. Tate had one, so I went over to his place. We were talking. We said, what are we going to pod about? Like, there hasn't really been a ton going on in college basketball. And then I'll be damned, college basketball delivered. There's stuff to talk about.
There's so much to talk about. And we said this. I mean, we had the pod on Friday, and people forget that we did have the pod on Friday. You can go back and listen. Just hit the previous button. But right now, Sunday, we just turned on the TV Sunday. There's NFL games on. I'm having to watch all these NFL games. But we came across a great game. And it was our boy, Mr. Chris Collins and the Northwestern Wildcats.
We're getting into it.
Taking on Chris Beard and Texas Tech. And when we turned on the game, it was 23-5, I believe.
It was 23-5, yeah.
Texas Tech was ahead. Chris Beard doing great things. Does not have a beard despite the last name. But Chris Collins just looked shook. And should we just get into our segment?
Are you ready to do it? You want to just lead it off with good guy, bad guy?
And we should say that it used to be good guy, bad guy. So it was 3. But people were getting confused between the bad guy and the bad guy. We should spell this out. It's B-A-G guy, bad guy.
Yeah,
so
we had,
good guy, bad guy.
At one of our production meetings that we have, of which there are many.
So many celebrities
we
just
discussed
roaming around
how
in those.
it's impossible to tell the difference between bad guy and bad guy. And those of you that are just listening said, I didn't hear the difference right there when you said it. So the first time we had the bad, B-A-D guy, was Bruce Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting rid of the bad guy.
And I kind of like that he's our only bad guy ever in history. Like I kind of like that he's the one-off.
History will show that he's the only one.
Congrats, Bruce Pearl.
So the new segment is just good guy, bag guy, B-A-G guy. And again, we were worried, Tate. We said to ourselves, we know who the good guy is. Mm-hmm. It's going to be Chris Collins.
Yes.
Which, by the way, if you're a new listener, Tate and I do not talk hot seat.
No.
We as college basketball media, we do not like to say that guys deserve to be fired or anything like that. The way we do it is we want to compliment them. We're not really sure how because they're a terrible coach right now. So we just say they're a good guy.
And let's be honest. If you have a car with seat warmers, you probably got a good job. And if you're in a hot seat, you're probably doing pretty well. Like you're driving in your Lexus back from the office.
I like how you, that's a good little spin
hot
there.
seat's pretty dumb. Doesn't make sense.
So good guy, bad guy. Our good guy, I'm going to actually step in and do a token mention of this guy as a good guy. This was the good guy I was going to offer up of the week. Your boy Danny Manning. He needs to get some good guy. And you're looking at me right now.
Stop this.
You're looking at me right now saying, I said this to Tate off the air.
Friend of the program, Danny Manning.
I said this to Tate off the air. I was like, Danny Manning might be a good guy. And he goes, no, don't do Danny Manning. He's like actually a good guy. And I was like, that's the whole point, Tate. He's a good guy.
I like bad guys more than good guys.
So Wake Forest is currently sitting at 1-4.
Yes.
They've lost to Georgia Southern. They've lost to Liberty. They lost to Drake, who started at the bottom.
Not the rapper.
Drake started at the bottom. Now they're beating Wake Forest. And they just lost to Houston. Kelvin Sampson, who's a bad guy. Bad guy Kelvin Sampson.
We should do bad guy just this week so we can do Kelvin Sampson, just so he can be also in there. But
so your boy, do you want to defend yourself? I'm going to give you the...
Yes, I will defend Danny Manning, and I will defend Wake Forest basketball, because right now they're in a weird spot. They thought, and people forget, John Collins now plays for the Atlanta Hawks. leads the NBA rookies in PER at the moment.
Does not play for Wake Forest.
Yeah, does not play for Wake Forest.
Irrelevant.
He basically had an amazing sophomore season last year. Took the ACC by storm, basically. And now he's in the NBA. He left a year early. They did not think that they would lose John Collins. Now they're trying to replace him with Chandre Brown. I think he's a freshman, or he is a freshman. And then they have Melo Eggleston is another freshman that came in. So they got young guys.
That's great. Yeah.
And they got Randolph Childress' kid, Brandon Childress. He's a sophomore. He's still finding his role. So what I'm saying is that they're young, Titus. Give the man some time.
That's great. So they're the only program in the country that has guys graduate or go to the NBA. That's wild. That's a wild problem to have.
Hey, and let's say this.
Who could have saw that coming?
They played the toughest team in the tournament in the play-in game, and Kansas State and Wake Forest both should have been in the tournament last year. It shouldn't have been the play-in game, and they played Wesley Awundu, who's also in the NBA. So Spin Zone says that you're wrong, Titus.
You are drinking the Kool-Aid, my friend. The Kansas State was the best team. What did you just say?
No, those are two great teams that should be in the tournament last year. They had to do the play-in game BS. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so you're basically arguing that...
I'm basically arguing that Wake Forest did not get a fair shake last season when they had the talent around them. And right now, you're coming at a man that's just a good guy.
You're mad that they had to play good teams in the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
Which I feel like most teams probably do.
Look, I wish that they could have played Wichita State. That's what I wish. I think that would have been a different outcome.
They have to replace guys because they graduated and went to the NBA.
No, you have a plan with guys. When you're a good coach and a good man like Danny Manning, you have a plan.
You're drinking the Kool-Aid. But I will. Luckily for you, there's an even better guy out there right now, and his name is Chris Collins.
Thank God.
And we'll get to this.
Thank you, Chris.
You've been licking your lips for 24 hours, like waiting to talk about Chris Collins.
Well, because we talked about this on our preview pod for people that didn't know. Chris Collins, they got to the mountaintop, and now, it's just riding back down to the bottom. And, that's where good guys go to die, basically. And this good guy didn't have anything at the end of the game. They were going to lose by 40 points, and they had the ball. We're going to talk about it later.
Let's give some context to what happened for those who didn't see the game. The final score was 85-49, I believe.
Yes.
Texas Tech beat Northwestern, who was ranked 20th in the country.
Erroneously so.
So Northwest, first of all, I don't know if you caught this, because we turned the game on late. I went back and rewatched it. Northwestern had a technical foul to start the game. Before even time went off the clock, Northwestern was losing 1-0 because they did not submit their starting lineup in time.
And guess what that comes down to, Titus? Coaching. Chris Collins, are you kidding me? You can't turn in your roster?
So when the ball,
what are you doing?
When the ball tipped off, it was 1-0 Texas Tech, and Texas Tech literally led for infinity seconds of that game. And they I don't know how to put it into words. Yeah.
So
it's melting my mind. I can't even think straight.
Chris Collins, his whole life, he's been wanting to be a star, right? He had his Duke career in short with an injury. Like Coach K always wanted him to have this primetime moment. He never had it. Last year, he's been working to this moment. He's just like, I want to get this Northwestern team to the tournament. He finally gets him there. He finally gets the spotlight. And he catches the disease. It's the disease of more. He has too much. Like to him, he won a title already. When really they just made the tournament.
So Northwestern in the first half, Scotty Lindsey is like basically the only guy doing anything. They got the guy off the bench, Falzone, who was scoring, but Scotty Lindsey was the only Northwestern person to score until there was 8 minutes and 17 seconds left in the first half. So they played almost 12 minutes, and only one guy scored for Northwestern.
Well, when you have a guy like Brian McIntosh on your team, who's supposed to be your star, and you're a coach, and your job is to draw up plays to get guys shots.
Now, hold on, Tate.
Come on.
McIntosh, I don't like to bust this excuse out all the time, but McIntosh had the look of like my girlfriend just dumped me type thing going on, which is like very convenient. A lot of guys like to pull that one out. We had, it was a lot of stress in the classroom or something. Like a lot of guys love that.
I'm not hearing
You got the girlfriend thing. You got the, I don't know. There's always like something going on with these guys.
You know what you say if you're Chris Collins? Hey, Brian, lock it up. Lock it up.
Brian McIntosh was very lethargic. The entire team was lethargic, and that was like kind of the shocking thing was that
you're supposed to be tryhards.
For all the times we like to roll our eyes about I kept saying the hunter versus the hunted thing jokingly, and then I'm watching the game and I was like, damn, I think that's actually what's going on here. It's like Texas Tech wanted to kill Northwestern. Like those guys, first of all, that team is good.
They're really good.
They're very, very good.
We had
some
people when we were laughing about the fact that Texas Tech was like, wait till you see the Texas Tech team. This is just the start of more.
I mean, to be fair, like every fan base has done that to us. Like I had a guy chirping at me about Iowa State, and they're like, just wait till you see Iowa State. They're going to score a lot this year, and then they lose their first game.
Let's give Steve Prohm some credit. He was our first good guy of the season. He turns things around,
he did.
And they win the Myrtle Beach Classic or whatever they end up calling. It used to be the Puerto Rico tip-off, and then they had to go to Myrtle Beach. Congrats to Steve Prohm.
So Northwestern has 15 turnovers in the first half. The first non-Scotty Lindsey field goal happens with like 5 minutes and 47 seconds left. Vic Law makes one free throw. He's the only other starter to score in the first half.
You know what makes me disgusted about this whole thing is that I know all those players.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm looking at Texas Tech and like there's like 3 or 4 guys that I'm like, oh, I kind of know that. Like, but the Northwestern team, like I'm invested in. I know all these guys because I had to learn about all of them last year in the tournament, and they're still doing this to me.
Texas Tech got Seth Greenberg. I saw this. I tweeted. I was with you. I took a picture of your TV. Seth Greenberg busted out the Big 12 tier ranking, which was very exciting because the second best Big 12 team race is always the reason to watch the Big 12, if we're being honest. Like, that's the thing everyone wants to know. And Seth Greenberg is on it. It's November. It was November 19th, and he's already busting out the, like, where does Texas Tech fit in? Which, by the way, if you missed it, he had it tiered like this. Kansas is tier 1. Tier 1A.
Yeah, not 2. There are no 2s here. Just 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D.
Tier 1A is TCU and Oklahoma.
Uh-huh.
Tier 2 is West Virginia, Baylor, Texas Tech, and Texas. And Tier 3 is Kansas State. And you're asking yourself, what about
how did Kansas State make this list?
What about Oklahoma State and Iowa State? I don't know. I don't know if they're tier 3A. I don't know if they're tier 4, tier like 6B-4.1.
When do we get to 2?
I'm not really sure what tier they fit in, but Oklahoma State and Iowa State didn't make Seth Greenberg's tiers, so that's how he sees it right now. So Texas Tech moved up. I think they moved up.
Big 12.
I think Texas Tech moved up from tier 3 for Greenberg to tier 2. Now they're knocking on the door of 1A. And I don't know. It's all very confusing, but that's how the Big 12 works. That's what we like. So, are we concerned about Northwestern moving forward, or is this? Do you want to put on your conspiracy hat and say this was all a ploy to kind of like shed the media thing, and now Northwestern's not the darling? Now everyone's like, well, maybe we were expecting too much of Northwestern. Maybe we should pump off the brakes. So then, come January, they're back in the position of being the hunter and being the underdog.
I think Chris Collins has studied the landscape of college basketball for a long time, and he's tried to figure out who he wants to be. Do I want to be another version of Coach K? Do I want to be that type of guy? Yeah, of course he does. But also, he's in the Big Ten. And what do the Big Ten, what do they love in your conference, right? They love the story of Tom Izzo, a team that has all this potential, that goes down. And then in late February, March, they just make the push because that's what they do. They're Mr. March.
And make the Final Four and celebrate. And then
so that maybe he's trying to pull that, but I don't think he's as calculating as that because he couldn't even turn in his own roster before the game. So I think he's having bigger problems here, and I think it has a lot to do with a big head.
Well, congratulations, Chris Collins, on being our good guy of the week.
And now he's going to win 4 games in a row.
He
just gave it to him.
Yeah, he's going to. That's how it's going to work. Northwestern, everyone's going to count Northwestern out now because they got smoked. They almost lost by 40.
They should have. Chris Beard, come on.
So we have a double dip on our bad guy of the week too. And that's
not a pun on like the amount of money or anything with that.
We were worried about the bad guy because I was again we were planning. We were like, I don't know who like what are we gonna do for a bad guy of the week? And then the college basketball gods always deliver. Today, bowl.
Yes.
Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Is it bowl?
Yeah. And it's not like you're confused and you want 2 bowls to eat cereal. No.
Manute Bol's son. Who is top 5 prospect? We'll say. We'll call him top 5.
Yeah.
We'll call it. It makes the story better.
It's so great that we have Manute Bol's kid and Shaq's kid like in the same class coming out with Sharif O'Neal and Bol. So it'll be good for big men.
Bol committed to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon, as you may have heard, has ties to Nike.
What? Wait, what?
Yeah. So Bol is the biggest recruit in Oregon history, both probably size-wise and I think in terms of like talent. I think that both are true.
Yeah, that's not even close.
And this commitment happens on the same week that the Phil Knight 80th birthday party in Portland.
The PK-80?
Interesting. The PK-80. And Phil Knight, Oregon, Nike, Bol.
Do you think that there was like someone that went to Tony Stubblefield and Dana Altman at Oregon and they were like, it was like a Nike exec and he's like trying to suck up to Phil Knight and he's like, I want to be the next guy in line. And I got an idea, guys. Mm-hmm. I got this duffel bag, and it's not medium-sized. It's large. And I got to go drop this bag off to a guy named Bol because I need to give Phil Knight a little present for the PK-80 because I don't know what to get him. The guy has everything.
That's the Phil Knight present?
Cars, got planes.
Interesting.
He's got everything. But what he really wants is a national title for Oregon basketball.
That's all he's ever wanted.
And
or football.
Or
football. The football team. That's all he's ever wanted.
He's got him to the Final Four. He's got him to the championship game. Is all he's ever wanted.
This is great. Yeah.
Let's get him Bol, and let's see if the big man can come back. Because if Bol goes to Oregon and they start the big man revolution as Peyton Pritchard running the pick and roll with Bol,
Oh.
And they call it the Pick and Bowl?
The Pick and Bowl? Oh.
Come on.
Just stop it.
That's the PK80.
Stop it.
That's a gift.
Well, you were telling me, Bull Bull's story that he grew up.
Yeah, so he wrote all right, everyone. Everyone writes a Players Tribune piece now. That's the thing. You put everything. You basically write your own narrative, and then I read it, and I buy into it, and I believe it. So this is all based on the Players Tribune. He basically wrote this whole piece about he grew up. His first memory, right? He goes and buys LeBron threes with his dad, Manute Bol. So when he was 10 years old, he gets LeBron threes. He puts them on, but they're not big enough because obviously he wears large feet because he's a large kid. But he still wears them anyway, and it was like one of his favorite memories, blah, blah, blah. And that was in, Connecticut. He moves to Lawrence, Kansas. All the kids are big Kansas fans. He was like, I like to consider myself a troll. So I told them all I was a Kentucky fan. So his whole life he's been living in Lawrence, Kansas. I think he ended up going to Mater Dei in California, but when he was young, this is what's happening. He's pulling for Kentucky the whole time. He said he loved Cal, wanted to go to school there. That's his whole thing. And then at some point throughout this whole experience,
what could have possibly happened?
I don't know. I don't know what happened. He said that Tony Stubblefield, the assistant coach at Oregon, their lead recruiter on a lot of these guys, Dylan Brooks, is one of probably the biggest ones.
We have a saying where I'm from when things like this happen. The Lord works in mysterious ways, Tate.
Exactly.
Just the stars align sometimes, and you land that recruit that loved Kentucky and had Kentucky on his final list, and he ends up going to Oregon on the same week as Phil Knight's 80th birthday. And it just, some people, some skeptics might say there were bags dropped. I just think it's all a coincidence, Tate.
I think it's called happenstance.
The burden of proof is on you. Prove to me that something dirty is going on here.
Oregon Journalism School.
Speaking of journalism schools and bags being dropped, we're circling back to the Michael Porter news where tonight, you're probably listening to this now. The Missouri game is probably going on as you're listening to this. Missouri plays tonight. They might be playing right now, actually.
I think they are, yes.
They actually are playing right now. So Missouri is keeping Michael Porter out of this game. That's not exactly shocking because they've kind of kept him out of all these games because he's got a hip or a leg injury or a toe.
It's the Michael Porter Jr. mystery.
No one really knows.
We're still trying to solve it.
Michael Porter Jr. is sitting out this game. He sat out every game except for the first 2 minutes of the first game.
Which is even more suspicious than it was when it first happened now. Yes. Based on everything that's happened since.
Because tonight they're saying the game is at home.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't traveling with the team, and you could maybe buy the thing about maybe it's uncomfortable to travel, maybe whatever. This is a home game. He's not even in the arena because he has an appointment, they're saying, with a specialist tonight.
And that is in quotations, folks. That's not you just saying there's a doctor. It's a specialist.
A specialist. So local tip time was 7 p.m.
Uh-huh.
You're telling me that Michael Porter Jr. could not have gotten an appointment with the specialist at any other time of day except for game day at the exact same time that the game tips off? Is that what you're telling me, Tate? Are you telling me this?
And let's just say this. What sort of specialist has hours to take appointments at 7 p.m.?
Ridiculous.
Who is that?
If you're a respected enough specialist to have Michael Porter Jr. as your client, you're calling your own shots.
Do you think
you're
Dr.
saying,
James Andrews is like, I'll meet you at 8 p.m.?
Yeah, no.
Maybe for dinner.
Absolutely not. Yeah,
not to look at you.
No. So, Tate and I were kind of the first to be in on this story.
And it was sort of a joke. It was tongue-in-cheek at the time because, we do like talking about – it's all fun and games. We're all talking about bags here, but this is not like a Bagley fun and game. This is like a Porter Jr. We want to see this kid play.
The important thing is let the record show that when everyone else said something's fishy here, they meant we're not really sure what the injury is. When Tate and I said something fishy here, we straight up said there's some bags being dropped. That has to be it. It has to be.
It has to be, and it's one of those things where they know the playbook, and they're not done. We haven't heard from the FBI in a little while, but they said they got a lot. They got a lot to do. So who knows where they are? But I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the Ozarks or if they're in Missouri. They're somewhere. They're figuring it out.
So good guy of the week, Danny. My good guy of the week was Danny Manning. Tate's good guy of the week, Chris Collins.
Yep.
Bad guy of the week, pretty much the entire Oregon.
Let's just say Nike.
Phil Knight. Phil Knight. But I like your theory that Phil Knight's not in on this. This is
no,
a gift
I don't think
to
Phil Knight does. I think that he was he just warmed his heart. He saw that. He was like, this is the best week of my life.
And also I have a feeling Michael Porter Jr. is going to be the bad guy of the week for a little while this season.
And guess what?
We're going to be
guess what
revisiting
school they're
this.
sponsored by?
Oh. Interesting. I don't know. Interesting. Hey, let's talk about some specific games.
Yeah.
So the game of the last few days to me was USC going to Vanderbilt, winning 93-89 in overtime. Jordan McLaughlin had 35 points. I felt like of those 93 that USC scored, he had like 90. That's kind of how it felt watching that game.
He's unbelievable.
He pretty much single-handedly won the game for him.
And I made all these jokes before the season. I thought that Derek Thornton, which a lot of people I think thought that I was talking about Tyler Thornton. They remember him at Duke. No one remembers Derek Thornton because he never did anything at Duke. But he went to USC, and I thought that he would be their point guard.
But Tyler Thornton was the one with the chunky little cheeks, right?
Yeah, he looks like like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Like he'd just be one of the other ones. Like he was basically like Quinn Cook's like punching bag. You know, he was like, I blame you for this.
Right.
But Derek Thornton goes there, doesn't even play, and then you have McLaughlin, Boatwright. I mean, they just have this. It's three guys that they have that can all make shots and make plays, but McLaughlin was the main one in this game. And Thornton didn't even play. We don't even get to see O'Bannon Jr. really at all. I think he had like one rebound. They have no bench, but their starting five is really good.
They're not as good as I anticipated coming into the season.
I thought they were going to have depth.
But the thing that stands out to me about USC is, so this game, first of all, this is not like an embarrassing, like if you're not really paying much attention, you see a top 10 team had needed overtime. They were kind of trailing most of the game. You might think, what the hell's going on? Why is USC playing poorly? It wasn't really that bad. But the reason I'm really not concerned is because, I mean, you might look at this and say, well, McLaughlin carried them, the rest of the guys suck. But that's kind of how this team is designed. Like next game, McLaughlin might suck. Benny Boatwright's going to be the killer. You have Elijah Stewart who can score. You have Metu who can carry the team.
He had a good game at the end
That's
of the
like,
game.
he ended up having a pretty decent game. But that's kind of how they're, I mean, you watch these teams with all these talent and you think like, unless all the guys are playing well together, like you're kind of, you come out, you're like, oh, I'm out on them. Like they're not really getting it all together. But,
and in college, if you have a guy like McLaughlin that can go out, like do the whole thing where I can score 30 points and win you a game, that's what you want in the tournament.
And the point is they have like a handful of those guys.
Yeah.
It's just that on this particular night, Boatwright wasn't playing his best basketball.
He was the third guy.
He was doing the Nigel Hayes syndrome, big guy, the power forward shooting threes.
He also looked very concerned the whole time, like, oh, I really hope we don't lose this one. Like, he was worried, but it was out of his control.
So Vanderbilt Vanderbilt played well. I mean, like they really should have won the game, but they kind of showed me something that they're a pretty good team. I like them.
Matthew Fisher Davis, great hyphenated name. There's a lot of hyphenated names that I don't like. Matthew Fisher Davis, I do. And it's not because he's from North Carolina. It's because he's a baller and he gets buckets.
He's running from the foul against Northwestern last year. But
I think that's great now that he's like doesn't even seem affected by that.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't. But to be fair, he doesn't seem affected by anything. Like if there's a criticism about that guy, it's that he just kind of. I like guys like that. That's how I always played when I was actually playing on meaningful teams. Like so, basically, like my sophomore year of high school. That was like the last time. No, when I was good as a senior, but like that's how I played. Was I don't know. I just kind of like put my head down and like didn't want to talk to anybody. I was just kind of like, whatever. I don't really care. I'm gonna get buckets and nothing really phases me. That's how he plays. He had 31, 11 rebounds. He was hitting everything. That white kid on Vanderbilt was killing too. And then he started feeling himself a little too much. LeChance.
Yeah, just
Riley LeChance.
Just pass it to
he started feeling it, but he was hitting a little bit. But the other thing that stood out to me, USC has they have I don't know if you noticed, they have the C's on their jersey for the captains.
Yes.
I saw it on McLaughlin's jersey first, and I got excited because I like the C. I like the captain C. I think that's one thing that hockey does right. Basketball should learn from that. We need the C's on the jerseys.
I just heard white noise when you said hockey.
USC's problem is they have 3 guys with the C on their jersey. How do you have Tate? My question to you is this: how can you have and this isn't just USC? Every basketball team has like multiple captains, and I started realizing like this is a problem in basketball. We have multiple captains at these schools. How do you have multiple captains of something?
Well, it's the participation trophy personified and all the way up to the college ranks, because now you have all these seniors or juniors or whoever it is, and you can't pick one. Like in North Carolina, it's like Theo and Joel are both the co-captains. Like, it's not just like Theo is the captain or Joel is the captain. I
didn't think about it until I like saw it spelled out that like 3 guys, because like in hockey you see the guy wearing a C and you're like, that's the guy.
Yes.
That is the guy right there.
Everyone's looking at him.
Everyone's looking at him.
Yes.
So then I see it like on the chest of the USC guy. I was like, McLaughlin, that is the guy. And then later they cut to Benny Boatwright and you're like, and that's the guy? And then you see Metu and you're like, and that's the guy.
And then you see Andy Enfield's wife, and you're like, that's the gal?
And it's all very confusing. And I mean, I don't know. And then I started thinking about the bigger picture. I was like, every team has multiple captains. The idea of a co-captaincy makes no sense to me. When the Somalians were hijacking Captain Phillips Tate, and the guy says, look at me, I am the captain. He didn't say, look at me, I am also the captain, but you are the captain, and the guy over there is the captain, and we all the captains. No, that's not what he said, Tate. He said, I am the captain now.
That'd be a pretty good movie if they all just were the captain. They just had a party.
Guy. Yeah. So you need a guy. I don't understand how you have multiple guys. So, but
how do you pick the guy? Is my question. I think they should just play knockout, right? Just one day of practice. We just play knockout. We figure out who the captain is. Know. Everyone has to deal with it.
But that to me is like one thing that always makes amateur sports like stick out from pros. I mean, I talk about hockey, but like basketball, I would never care who the NBA the captain is on an NBA team. Hockey is just like its own thing. Like hockey's just like has its hockey culture. So, but you have these captains in like high school games, and
high school it's one.
High school it's like a very big deal to be a captain. I was never a captain because I was a shitty leader.
I was captain on my soccer team and I lost it because I got suspended for 4 games.
In college you have these captains, and I guess I just want the captain to mean something again. I don't know.
I think they should.
That's an old.
They should throw the patch in the middle like a jump ball, and then they should all try to fight for it, and then whoever calls first, there you go, you got it. I don't know. There's some way to do it.
What about so Vanderbilt's arena? We were getting tweets about this as this was going on, and I know that you wanted to talk about this. Your thoughts on just go ahead. Say what you want to say about Vanderbilt's arena.
No, I just think a lot of people underestimate, when they see Kevin Stallings at Pitt now, and they're like, how did this guy win games at Vanderbilt, And it's like, well, they have a great home court advantage. The biggest thing that John Calipari and a lot of coaches do with young guys, and like what Kay does with Duke guys now, and even like going to UNLV with Rashad, I mean, all these examples, you call out switches, you call out things on defense, you call out help on the backside. I mean, all these little things, a lot of coaches do that, especially assistant coaches are yelling stuff out to guys. And the way they have the benches, you're on the baseline. So at one half, you're gonna have the situation where you are playing defense where you don't have the bench and you can't yell to them. So you're basically out there in no man's land and you're trying to figure it out. So if you ever watch Kentucky play at Vanderbilt, you're going to see you're going to see Marcus. 2 years ago, you saw Marcus Lee just like a total idiot because he was just like confused, didn't know what was going on, and that's what was happening in this game. I feel like with
this is why I wanted you to. This is why I said I want you to talk because this is like the smartest thing I ever heard you say in your life. Like you said, you brought this point up to me last year because we were talking about why Kentucky always loses at Vanderbilt, and you said because they have a young team, Cal cannot talk to his guys. These kids need to be talked to. Cal cannot talk.
That's
to
when they're
these
acting
kids.
like kids.
Yeah, and I don't know. Just like I was like, oh my God, Tate sometimes says smart things. So I was allowing you.
You hear that? You hear that, podcast listeners? 1 for 250.
You hear that, Mom?
I did it.
You want to? Why don't you take a step further? Are you going to say Kentucky's going to lose this year at Vanderbilt?
I think they will.
You know what's funny, by the way, is I heard during as you said Stallings, it all just came rushing back. Dane Bradshaw, who played at Tennessee, you remember him?
Yeah.
He was calling the game, the Vanderbilt USC game. And he had a point where he said, I forget how he phrased it, but he said something like the difference between, or he was talking about like his days at Tennessee when he would come to play at Vanderbilt. And he was like, the scouting report was they talked a lot, but like if you just kind of hit them in the mouth, they were soft. And he's like, but Bryce Drew stepped in and changed the culture. And like the way he said it was just, I was dying. He was basically like saying Kevin Stallings' team's bunch of pussies.
Yeah, they acted tough, but as soon as you pushed back, it was over.
That's pretty much like Dane Bradshaw basically was saying like Kevin Stallings is a pussy. That's like basically what he said in a very roundabout, like politically correct way. And I was loving it. Obviously, I was loving it. So.
Poor Bryce Drew. We called him our bad guy last week, and this was a big top 10 win that he could have had at home. You know, maybe get Romeo Langford, top recruit.
Let's not talk that way. Let's not talk like that. Let's not talk that way. Let's not speak it into existence. LeVar Ball over there. So the other game that we waited to record because we figured it might be a good game. It was a good game. The Wichita State Shockers played the Cal Golden Bears in Maui. Cal had the game won until they didn't. Tate was very heartbroken by this as a Wichita State fan.
All right. But I'll just say this right now. We were watching the game. Mark Titus is, I have some commentary on Wichita State. I always have. I think if you put any D1 program in their uniform, if you put, let's say Cal, let's say we switch the uniforms. We put Cal in the Wichita State uniforms. They're not ranked number 6 in the country. I'll tell you that. There's no way. If you put the California jerseys on Landry Shamet, and you roll the balls out, and you start the game, you would have watched that game and said, "Wow, these are two pretty mediocre teams playing each other."
If Wichita State had Nebraska jerseys on,
yeah, they're just a run-of-the-mill team. In the same way that if Svi Mikhailov's name was Matt Jones, he would not be on every single draft board out in the world. It's just like, it's all perception of the way you view things. And I understand that they're the class of the mid-majors, and they did make a Final Four in 2014. And this is not to say anything bad about that team or anything that they've done. But this game right here,
dude, stop being nice. Like you hate Wichita State. Just say it. Like you're hedging your emotions over here.
I'm not hedging. I'm just saying I'm so tired of hearing about it. They're just not. I feel like Virginia Tech would blow them out. I feel like Miami would blow them out. There's so many teams that I've watched play that I think would blow them out. But we also talked about if they were to play Kansas in like a tournament in Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Invitational, they'd probably win on some BS. But I don't like this team. I don't think they're very good. I'm tired of talking about them. This is not a mid-major podcast. This is the top class, top flight program podcast. Get out of here, Wichita.
We were number 1 on iTunes for 4 days. Okay.
I'm sorry, Wichita, Kansas.
Okay. So a few things. Number 1, this is a cowardly stance by you, because you know that Wichita State fans are all like 75 years old and are not going to be on the internet, do not listen to podcasts, and you know that this was like you know that you're going to get no blowback from this. That's not, except from college basketball media people who probably don't listen to this.
And that's the thing, like, I'm putting it out there. I mean, you were saying that as soon as I turn and I start loving Wichita State, then I will become college basketball media.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that.
That's how you know.
I don't need to be that.
I know. That's how you'll know you've sold out, is when you're
I'm not selling out, guys.
Number 2, when I say I like Wichita State, I've never said that.
Name one great thing about their team and the way they play.
I got to figure out how to say this.
Yeah.
I think they're going to win, is how I, like, the thing I would say is, like, I don't think they're good. I think they win. Well, and that sounds absolutely absurd.
Because they get treated like a blue blood. They get treated
so much
like they
should
get calls. They get treated like they were supposed to win this game against Cal. Wyking Jones, if he could draw up a way to break a press.
Oh, my God, that was bad. So Cal gets out to a huge lead. Wichita State starts pressing. Cal's press breaker is run 2 guys to either corner in the backcourt, throw the ball in, let him get trapped, and then throw the ball from one corner to the other. What the hell? You got Greg Marshall, by the way, out there like helping with the press. He was like the 6th man on the court. Like he's in the defensive stance, sliding on the sideline, but he's out there because it's Maui and the gym's small, so he's like running out on the court, kind of helping with the press.
So that's my biggest problem with Greg Marshall, and I didn't even think I've ever brought this up before. I hate coaches that aggressively get outside the coach's box and like try to make their presence felt as if they're this big show. Patino is all about it. Calhoun used to be terrible about it at Kentucky. At Connecticut, we obviously used to see Coach K as, the most egregious violator in history. And he does the same thing as if he is like a top class. Like, I know he gets paid all this money, but
you're just saying that because every time Roy gets out of the coach's box, he faints.
Roy would never step outside the coach's box because he respects the game.
Every time he does, he faints or whatever it is that he has going on.
No, he has vertigo and he sits down and he figures it out.
And it's always when they're down by 12 at Florida State.
Oh, God. No. And then Ty Lawson hits the runaway jumper to win.
So, Cal has. If you're a coach and you're playing, Cal is on your schedule coming up, and you do not open the game with a press, you should be fired on the spot. I'm calling for your head. You should be fired immediately. Cal's press breaker is offensive to me. It's an affront to college basketball.
We're talking about Cal as if they're going to matter in the landscape of college
They're terrible.
Basketball. That's how bad Wichita State is. They let Cal be a part of the discussion.
Wichita State was a 19-point favorite. I actually do think they're a good team. I think they're going to win the Maui Invitational. You know this. This is my whole point. Like, they're not going to do it in a way that you're like, damn, that team is great. They're going to do it in a way that you're like, they won the Maui Invitational still, so I have to, I guess they're good. And by the way, they don't even have Marcus McDuffie, your guy, McDuffie Bags.
McDuffie Bags didn't play, and I will say that when he plays, McDuffie plays, I guess they're a better team. Shamet did not impress me today.
Shamet was killing.
When they made their comeback, he was sitting on the bench. Get out of here with that talk. I do like that he's not wearing an undershirt this season. But I will say this.
Shamet was killing. Calm down. Connor Frankamp is the problem. This is the problem with Wichita State. Is Connor Frankamp is terrible.
His hair?
Connor Frankamp is not good, and he has this reputation as being good because he can shoot every now and then. And he played at Kansas, and he was like a top 50 recruit. But
he's so jealous of Svi Mikhailuk, he doesn't know what to do with himself.
He does not fit the play angry stereotype of Wichita State. He is not Ron Baker. That's the problem. I think you figure that out. I think you get McDuffie back, start pushing Fran Camp. Like, I'm sure his dad, as we've said before, he's got a notorious helicopter dad, or so I've heard. Still waiting on that article from Seth Davis.
We won't be able to read it because it'll be behind a paywall, but we'll be sure to figure it out.
I'm sure his dad is like pressing for the minutes, but at some point Greg Marshall is going to have to, put his foot down. So yeah, Wichita State, I still think they're fine. But yeah, I will walk back my take that they might be one of the best teams in the country. Which, by the way, I never said. I don't know. I guess
said it.
I'm softening my language. I'm trying to figure out like what I meant by that.
This is the
just
first
retroactively trying to save myself.
This will be the first time that I ever pull for Wojo, this Marquette team. Marcus Howard, Marquette.
Yeah,
they're friends of the program, Marquette University. Their Twitter. We hope that I want to see it.
So I'm going to call out Jay Billis, by the way, because I just thought about it as they were showing him out. He had a little stubble beard going. Never forget, Jay Billis said if Gonzaga made the Final Four last year, he would grow out his beard as long as Karnowski had his beard at Gonzaga, and he's still not done that. So I just wanted to put that out there, all you college basketball fans. Perhaps maybe you use a Twitter account. Perhaps maybe you want to tweet that at Jay Billis. Remind him that he owes America a long beard, and he has not delivered on that promise. He went on national television, and he said, if Gonzaga makes the Final Four, I will grow out my beard that long.
And maybe stop the gotta go to work stuff and do the I gotta grow a beard.
Yeah,
that's your new thing.
I just like men who keep their word. That's all, Tate. I don't really care to see the beard. It's the principle.
What school did he go to?
Interesting.
Oh, that's right. They don't keep their word.
So a few other things we got to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Your boy Pitino.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Rick Pitino. He did a little feature here with Jeff Goodman, basically. Like an update a month later, as if like he's some sort of victim in the case here, like what's going on with Rick Pitino after he leaves Louisville, after the board of trustees thrust him and locked him out of his office and all this stuff. So Rick Pitino, 65 years old, moved to Miami. That's standard practice.
That is shocking.
Yeah, shocking stuff.
Rick Pitino ended up in Miami.
So he's going to be able to wear all white. Check. He's in Miami right now. He said that he plans to attend a few upcoming games at Minnesota where his son Richard, obviously, we've talked about little Richie, at Golden Gopher games. He's going to go there. And he's in this situation. He said, if a school come April comes to me in Miami and says, we believe in you, we believe you are innocent, I would give it a shot. He said, I don't care about the money or the salary, Mark Titus.
No.
Rick Pitino is trying to posit this as if he's trying to change and do this new chapter of life. He said he called Gary Williams, great Maryland coach that retired in 2011. And Gary told him, you're going to miss practice. You're going to miss having the whistle in your mouth, and talking to these young kids. But you just got to find your next chapter. But Rick Pitino is still doing ESPN articles talking about how he wants a job. But he's like, I got to find my next chapter. It doesn't.
And he puts the onus on like all the other athletic directors in the world to reach out to him, hire him. It's like, I'm being blackballed, damn it. I don't understand why this college basketball community, after decades and decades of scuzzy behavior and just being a sleazeball and getting
not very classy.
Not classy. Not classy at all. We like classy guys here on One Shining Podcast. Not classy at all. Why, after decades of this behavior and being involved in a prostitution ring and being involved in an FBI investigation and all the other shit he has going on and affairs and paying for abortions and on down the line that Rick Pitino has in his long and storied career, why and then he shows no remorse. Why doesn't anybody just, give him another shot? I don't understand it, Tate.
We all deserve 18 chances, right?
It doesn't make any sense.
If you just told the story of Rick Pitino to someone that knew nothing about college basketball as if he was just a human being in life, you would think it was the greatest gangster movie you've ever heard in your entire life. You'd be like, is that the next Tony Montana? What the hell is that?
You're not wrong. I just like someone, I just want to see someone give the guy a shot. He's obviously sorry for everything he's done. That's why he's out there saying I'm innocent. I didn't do anything wrong. He's obviously learned a lot, which is why he's gotten progressively worse with his behavior as he's gotten older. Just give him a shot. What's the worst that could happen?
Final line from him. The way I feel today, I'm not going to coach again, but that may not be my feeling in February.
Ooh.
So we will reevaluate this in February to see where we stand.
In February? Why did he say February?
I'm not sure, but that's right before March.
Why would he say February? It's like he has some sort of...
It's like he knows that there's going to be some sort of job opening
do you think he has his eye on
his way into...
Because most guys would say March, or most people would say April, because that's when the season's over, and then you kind of see.
Watch out, Missouri!
Keep your head on a swivel, Quanzo Martin. Rick Pitino is positioning for your job. You got anything else? We want to do like a rundown. I just had some notes of stuff.
Yeah, just throw some things out there that we saw.
I mean, I'm not really sure how much time we need to spend on this stuff. I saw Ohio University, the Bobcats beat Indiana State by 2 in 4 overtimes.
That's pretty interesting.
And it was interesting because it went to 4 overtimes. It was also interesting because Ohio was favored by 2 and they won by 2 in 4 overtimes. So like
Vegas,
like the 5 people that had money on that game were probably that was probably a roller coaster. Duquesne lost to Robert Morris. That's a rivalry game, Tate. The Duquesne Dukes. We're going to check back in on them from time to time. I don't know if you remember. They hired me for a half second. I said no.
It's kind of like I'm podcasting with Rick Pitino talking about Louisville games.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, get over it.
I'm just saying, one of my stances, I had 2 things that I stood for at Duquesne. Number 1, we were going to beat the hell out of every school in Pittsburgh. That includes Robert Morris. That certainly includes the Pitt Panthers. I don't know if Carnegie Mellon has a team.
They do. My buddy played at Carnegie Mellon.
Really?
Yeah.
We would have beat the hell out of them too.
Yeah.
Every team in Pitt was going down if I was the coach of Duquesne. And number 2, I promised a Final Four berth. And if I didn't deliver on that, I was going to resign. You had my word. I would have put it in the contract. And so far, it looks like they made the wrong decision. They're losing to Robert Morris. I just felt like bringing that up.
Did you specify the tournament that you would make the Final Four in, or does
no,
it not matter?
I was taking them to the Final Four, or I was resigning after 1 year. That was a guarantee. That was the tightest guarantee. And you know, they made their bed. Now they have to sleep in it. Lose it to Robert Morris. That's the decision you made. Western Illinois also beat a team called Calvary. Not to be confused with the infantry. They beat Calvary 102-25.
Are we sure Calvary is a school and Field's a basketball team?
They led 53-8 at halftime. Now, I know nothing about Western Illinois. I don't want to talk about Western Illinois ever again on this podcast, but they beat a team 102-25. That's hilarious.
It's good for Illinois basketball.
It's good for Illinois.
Good for the brand.
If they could just get those guys from Chicago to commit to that's the move with any Illinois team.
I don't know if DePaul lost, but I'm pretty sure they did. So
any team in Illinois that you feel like should be better, you're just like, I just don't get it. Why don't they just get the guys from Chicago? Then they could turn it around.
Why won't Anthony Davis just go to DePaul? I don't understand.
Texas Arlington. This is actually a legitimate thing. I want to shout out Texas Arlington. They smoked BYU at BYU.
And that's a tough game.
Texas Arlington in the last 3 years, including this year. So like this year, last year, the year before, they have wins at BYU now, at St. Mary's, at Texas, at Ohio State, and at Memphis.
So don't pay them to come beat you.
Yeah, do not pay Texas Arlington to come kick your ass. As our buddy John Rothstein would say, that's the epitome of brutality. That's another Rothstein catchphrase. Kyle Guy dropped 29 at VCU.
Our guy. He should be our guy.
Yeah.
I want Kyle to be our guy.
We should do a segment, good guy, bad guy, Kyle Guy.
Yeah.
Every week. And we just like give a Kyle Guy update. Like whatever Kyle Guy's, this is what he did this game. There's a Kyle Guy update.
We have pretty much snubbed Virginia.
We have snubbed Virginia.
And we know Kim Pom. Kim Pom, we always joke about this. He does like all the advanced analytics for college basketball. Everyone that loves college basketball media and loves talking about college basketball, they like to rely on Kim Pom for the final answer.
Yeah.
He's always loved Virginia, but they're number 7 right now. Their team is Ty Jerome, who we love, and Kyle Guy, who we adore. And then you got Devin Hall.
Yeah.
You got we got
he did it. The Dean Smith of podcasting. He let the F-bomb slip.
Take it out, Kyle.
Leave that in there, Kyle.
Take it out,
Leave it in there, Kyle.
We got Isaiah Wilkins, stepson of Dominique Wilkins, senior year, great guy. They're just a fun team. And then they got this other guy, redshirt freshman that came in, Hunter, who put up 23.
Is Jack Salt still on the team?
Yeah, and Jack Salt. I forgot Salt. God, love Salt.
My problem with Virginia was I'm
a big fan of this Virginia
Kyle
team.
Guy. This happened to me with Luke May. Is like anytime the white guys start like doing well in a spot where they're not supposed to like lead the team, I think it's kind of funny. And then like the next year comes around and now they're like the best players, and I still think of them as like it's sort of funny. It's sort of like cute. Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
Look at he thinks he's a real basketball player. That's so cute. Ty Jerome waving off the Villanova guys. That's just adorable. I was like, well, actually, Ty Jerome, he can play. He can play basketball.
Oh, and they're going to be running this whole thing where like they're going to take Salt off the floor because he can barely run up and down. He just lumbers. You talk about someone that lumbers. Just watch Jack Salt run. They're going to pull him out, and they're going to have Hall, Hunter, Jerome, Guy, Wilkins at the 5.
Hall,
and you talk about a modern basketball team. Those are 4 dudes that can wet threes and 1 dude to get all the scrappy rebounds for him.
Hall, Hunter, Jerome, Guy. They have some great names.
Yeah, Virginia's a fun team.
There's
Tony Bennett, good for you.
Yeah, we slept on Virginia. We'll make it up. The Virginia fans don't care. Like,
we'll pay homage.
Just all you got to do is
Not
say,
a
like,
sponsored segment.
All you got to do is just say we slept on Virginia, and Virginia fans are like, oh, yes, thank you so much. Oh, yes, thank you. Finally, we get some respect in the media.
But don't bring up Chaminade.
They
just don't do it.
They love that. Yeah, Virginia fans just dying. Shout out to you guys, Virginia fans. Love you guys. I have here also Ukraine Maker is actually Kansas's best player. Another little thing of like a little punchline.
I'm gonna have to apologize because I said some really bad things about Svi Mikhailuk over the years.
He might actually be their best player.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's not their best player, he's certainly the X factor. Like I don't think Kansas can win a big game if he doesn't play well, which is a lot more than I expected out of his career.
And Devontae Graham, let's just say, being the number one guy, it's really hurt him. Like they put a lot of focus on teams trying to trap him and like double team him and try to keep him from scoring. Mm-hmm. It's not fun. I'm hoping that Svi starts taking that, or he's number one on the scouting report.
So who's the best team in Kansas then?
Oh my God, Kansas by a long shot. And you know what? Wichita State's on tier 3.
Seth Greenberg. If Wichita State was in the Big 12, Seth Greenberg has them at tier 3.5.
Yeah, they're on the Oklahoma State tier.
What else we got? Oh, Georgia Dome imploded.
Mm-hmm.
They took down the Georgia Dome. That's
Great
nowhere
memories.
that. I have mixed feelings because Georgia Dome hosted 3 Final Fours.
Yeah.
It hosted the 02 Final Four, which was my favorite Indiana team. For those of you who don't know my backstory, I grew up in Indiana. I grew up an Indiana Hoosiers fan. So at that time in 2002.
You have a Hoosier sweater on right now. Look, I have an
1991
Air Jordan shirt on. You have a Hoosier sweater. We're really buying into ourselves.
So 2002, I was in 8th grade. That was my favorite Indiana team ever with Tom Coverdale. It was basically Jared Jeffries and 4 unknown white dudes in the starting lineup. And they beat Duke and then on the run to the final game. And they lost to Maryland in the Georgia Dome. And then
Juan Dixon, Steve Blake, Chris Wilcox.
So like on the one hand, it's like my favorite.
Team.
It's my favorite IU team. Played there. Like they made the Final Four there. That's cool. But they also lost the national title game. 2007. And then I went to Ohio State. Walked onto the basketball team. 2007, I was a freshman. We went to the Final Four. Mm-hmm. We went to the national championship. We lost in the national championship in the Georgia Dome. So my favorite Indiana team, my favorite Ohio State team, both lost national titles there. And then the other Final Four they hosted was Michigan losing to Louisville.
Which is another Big Ten team.
Which actually I was okay
So basically, this is really tough for the Big Ten. They're probably a fan of the Georgia Dome going down right now.
When Trey Burke had a block shot on Peyton Siva with like 5 minutes left and Michigan was down like 6 or whatever. I don't even remember what the scenario was. And then they called it a foul. And then Michigan fans were like, well, shit, we would have won the game. Everyone knows we would have won the game. We would have totally won that, but they called the foul. And that's what, not the fact that like Louisville outplayed them for the entire game. That's not what cost them the national title.
And let's be honest, if they won the game, the title would have been taken later and vacated by the NCAA for some reason because that's just Michigan basketball.
Yeah.
Sorry, just kidding, Michigan.
That's the Louisville literally happened to Louisville.
That happened to Louisville. So.
Yeah, they would have vacated because Mitch McGary smoked weed. Or was that the last? That was the next year. That was the next year. I think Mitch
he didn't
McGary
get to play. Yeah,
he sat out and then he dressed. He dressed like one game just to get the team morale high. And because he dressed, he got drug tested.
Mm-hmm.
He failed the drug test, and then he was like, I don't know how that happened. Like I think what happened was I went to this party, and someone had weed.
It was secondhand weed smoke.
And like. They said, do you want to try this? And I was like, yeah, I've never tried weed before. I'll try it. And then I tried it.
I think he
was
called
like
it grass.
Yeah. I tried 3 marijuanas on that night. And, and I guess that was one too many. They got me.
Puff the
so the Georgia Dome also, the really cool thing about the Georgia Dome, do you remember in 2008 when they hosted the SEC tournament and they had the SEC tournament in the Georgia Dome?
I didn't remember.
You were like 4 years old.
What are you talking about? I watched this game, but I really thought it was the Trey Tompkins, Travis Leslie Georgia team. They're the only team I really remember that well. But then you pulled it up and was like, none of those guys were on this team.
The Georgia Bulldogs enter the SEC tournament with a 13-16 record in 2008. There's 4 games on this day in the Georgia Dome for the SEC tournament. Georgia's playing Kentucky in the final game of the day. During Game 3, a tornado hits. They postpone Game 4.
Billy Gillespie, Kentucky team, by the way.
The Georgia Dome was damaged by the tornado, so they have to move it to Georgia Tech's arena, the Russell Athletic Arena or whatever they call it.
They just changed the name. I can't remember the new name, but whatever.
Georgia then goes on to beat Kentucky. They win 2 games, I think, because they had to play like Kentucky in the morning for the postponed game, and then they played like later that night for the next round.
Mm-hmm.
And they go on to win the SEC tournament and make the NCAA tournament with like a 500 record. And they got a 14 seed and then lost like their first game to Xavier, I think. But anyway, it was like a fun story. Yeah.
It's a great story. My one Georgia Dome story is I went in 2010, North Carolina, the football team. The NCAA had just come to campus. They had basically told Butch Davis that all these players were going to have to sit out. They sat out all those players. They were down 31-10. We were contemplating going home. North Carolina was in this football game against LSU. Patrick Peterson ran back 2 kicks. It was like we should just leave. But we're like, I believe in TJ Yates. I believe in that quarterback. That guy's a winner, I think.
Yeah.
We come back all the way back, a chance to win the game. Touchdown pass to Zach Pianalto. First one drops, goes through his hands. It's like, it's all right. It's just 3rd down. Now we're 4th down. 10 seconds left in the game. It's right now 24-30. We could win the game. Extra point would win the game 31-30. Pianalto right through his hands again. North Carolina loses.
That was
awesome. A devastating game.
Thank you for telling that story. Everybody that's listening to this after eating Thanksgiving can now is falling asleep. They're
Blame
knocked
Zach
out.
Pianalto.
Everybody tunes into One Shining Podcast to hear North Carolina football talk.
It was the only North Carolina football game I ever really cared about.
Do you want to even talk about Trump and LeVar Ball?
No, let's not.
Let's not even.
Trump and LeVar Ball are tweeting at each other. No one really cares.
Let's bring it up to say we acknowledge it happened.
Yes.
And
we also acknowledge that Steve Alford has let LeVar Ball become the face of UCLA basketball. And he's going to have to deal with that. That's what it is.
He sold his soul.
He sold his soul to the Ball family. And, it was cool for Lonzo. I think that was a good decision. But for LiAngelo and LaMelo, man.
Yeah.
It's like the Plumlee deal,
Yeah.
But we didn't. I never saw Plumlee's dad or Plumlee's mom or something,
You're saying Coach K sold his soul to the Plumlee family in the same way that Steve Alford has sold his soul to the Ball family.
But
they're like the same situation.
Basically. Pretty much. And I like it because I like it.
Let's just go with it.
I like it.
Let's just go with it. And then the last thing, you brought this up to me and I thought it was funny. I thought we should say it. Holy Cross, our boss, Bill Simmons, who is a Holy Cross alum, they are number 1 on KenPom on the luck rating. They're like the luckiest. According to KenPom, Holy Cross is the luckiest team in college basketball. I just think that's funny.
That's hilarious. Bob Cousy's nightmare, basically.
I was talking to Simmons, by the way, the other day about college basketball, and we got talking about Holy Cross because, of course. And I asked him how many national. I was just trying to The only thing I know about Holy Cross is they won 1 title with Bob Cousy. Was it even with Bob Cousy?
Yeah,
I think it was with Cousy. Yeah, 1947.
1947, yeah.
That's the only thing I know. That's the only thing anybody knows. Who cares? So I was like, hey, yeah, when did they win that title again? And he goes, well, they won it in 1947, but they also won the NIT in 1950. And he did the thing where he was like, back then, the NIT mattered a little bit more than NCAA. So actually, they've kind of won 2 national titles. That's an old guy move.
That was the elitist argument for all those schools that are like all the, the Ivy League schools and all those original private institutions.
You were doing that with Carolina though. You were counting their 1926 title.
1924 national championship. Go check it out. Go look it up.
When did they win the 24 national title? They won it. I think they won it in 1989 when the committee got together and was retroactively dishing them out.
Well, because they were just who was the best team in basketball at the time, and it was there was no question.
You can't win a national title 60 years after it happens.
Look, they looked at the stats. They looked at the teams. What do you want from us?
You can't be a team.
We just take the W's.
You can't win a national title when half your team is dead. I'm putting that rule in. It's impossible. You can't do it.
Come at us.
You can't possibly do it.
7 titles.
So yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. I think we covered everything. There's some stuff in college basketball that we hit that from the last podcast, but
I'd watch out, Chris Collins.
Huge week coming up. The tournaments, the feast week, the Atlantis. We have a potential Villanova versus Arizona game on Friday. I'm very excited about that. I'm so excited that it's probably not going to happen. Purdue's going to upset somebody. I forget what side of the bracket Purdue's on. I think they're on Villanova's side. Purdue's probably going to blow.
Well, they got Tennessee's tough.
Purdue, Arizona would actually be all right. I'd be fine with that.
Same.
Either way, but Atlantis is going to be awesome. The PK80 is going to be awesome. Phil Knight is just going to be beaming from ear to ear that Bull is coming to Eugene.
I hope Bull's there.
Are you nervous about Carolina? They're about to get exposed. First of all,
so they play
Stanford
either
tonight.
Oklahoma or Arkansas after they beat
let's
Portland.
Pump the brakes. First of all, they play Stanford tonight. Reed Travis is going to do work on them. Secondly, they got to go to the PK80. Are you worried that they're about to get exposed?
Here's the spin zone. Roy Williams is playing Jared Haas, the coach of Stanford right now. Jared Haas, actually, should say. And everyone calls him Haas, but his name is Haas in the media, and it messes me up. It's like the Calipari thing. It's stop doing this to me. But yeah, I think Roy might throw him a bone just so he has a nice signature win to start because he wants to. Coaching tree has to grow. That's how you become a great coach.
Yeah.
If you look at Herb Sendek's coaching tree, Holy
He's got a
hell.
great.
You know, like
He's got
that
too
means
good of a
something.
coaching tree.
Yeah, and like K just like puts all of his coaches at private schools and runs the same thing. It's a sham. So Roy's trying to get his guys out there to get a big win. So maybe he throws this game. I'd watch out for that.
How long does a coaching tree extend? Like, so you're saying Herb Sendek made me think of my coach Thad Matta. Love him. So he got his start under Sendek. He's part of the coaching tree, but he himself has a coaching tree that includes Brad Stevens. So the question becomes: is Brad Stevens in the Herb Sendek coaching tree, and who was Herb Sendek descendant from? This is all very confusing.
It's like your coach third removed.
Yeah.
Like that's how you have to do it. You have to do the removal game, and like I don't want to go to LendingTree.com or Ancestry.com or whatever.
You know how it works is like if the guy is good, if the guy is LendingTree.com.
I don't know what they do.
If the guy is a good coach, you count him in your tree, and if he's not so much, you're like, we don't. He wasn't. I don't.
Just throw him to the side. I will say this: Thad Matta, he should go coach NC State. It made me think about that. Pack Pride, send in your post.
We got to get that on the pod and just see what he's up to. He's living his best life right now.
That's what we need.
Let's do what people don't forget to wrap it up because we're gonna be gone for a while, and this is kind of a big deal.
Fuck you, man.
Hey, Greg, why don't you go piss your pants again?
That was like 8 years ago, asshole.
People don't forget.
People don't forget. And folks, I will apologize and I will say, I take full blame for this. We were talking about, I don't even remember how this came up. We were talking about the Pistons. I think, first of all, Chauncey Billups was at Duke this week. My God, I'm out. Chauncey Billups, bye. See you later.
I remember how it came up. I was talking about DeAndre Ayton going number one. What are the chances he goes number one? Then I brought up Doncic?
Luka Doncic.
See,
like I know Luka Doncic, whatever. Anyways, then go ahead. We come up and we're talking about the Pistons, and I'm talking about a team that would pull in a guy, and I was talking about Darko Milicic, but I said Bargnani basically. And let's just be honest, I get both those guys confused a lot of the time because they're the same to me. They made no impact on my life, and especially Bargnani made no impact on my life at all. But in my mind, it's like a European that's not very good that didn't do anything in the NBA. Throw it out there. But Darko wins the title with the Pistons. He comes in. He's their top pick. And, like, I got confused with Milicic and Bargnani. I just threw them together. Milicic won a title, and then he left the NBA, and everyone thinks he's so great because he did that. He's not. Tayshaun Prince is great. Rasheed Wallace is great. Chauncey Billups used to be great.
So you're digging yourself a bigger hole here. First of all, nobody thinks Darko's great.
Don't they?
No.
Okay, I hope not.
No, Darko's.
I had a lot of people like, oh my God, Darko. Shut up.
So what happened? Tate got Darko and Bargnani confused. When Tate talks, I paid zero attention. That's how this podcast works.
He just writes it all down.
I'm gonna let you peek behind the curtain. Every time Tate talks, I'm just like staring at his face, just like, when are you going to stop talking so I can say what I need to say? Because I have more important things to say than you do.
Someone do a percentage breakdown.
So when he was talking about Bargnani, I was thinking, like, this sounds very familiar. This sounds like a story I know. And then come to find out you actually meant Darko. And yeah, nobody loves Darko. The only people that love Darko are the free Darko people who invented sports writing in like 2006 or whatever it is they claim.
Literally, I don't even know what you're talking about right now.
Right.
Like, I don't.
Because we should reiterate, you're like 12 years old.
No, I play basketball. You play basketball. If you play basketball, you don't read at home. You play sports.
Yeah, so we got Darko mixed up, but it's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal. I'm sorry. People forget.
Also, let's revisit my my LA story. If you didn't hear my story, and go back and listen to the podcast, at the very end I told a story about moving out here and getting swindled, going out to dinner. Someone told me the move is you have to ask for separate checks instead of splitting the bill. That's the vernacular you have to use. So if you say, I want the bill split, everyone's going to do it evenly. Or like, you have to say, I specifically want separate checks. And apparently there's like a thing in LA where like the waitresses do not want to swipe more than one card, or else like the machine catches on fire, apparently. Like, I don't know why you can't swipe more than one card. I don't know why you can't have multiple checks.
Well, it's a symptom called affluenza. And a lot of people in LA deal with that because they think that everyone that they're at a dinner with or a brunch with or whatever, they're well off.
They're also rich. Yeah.
They're well off enough to pay for it.
They
like,
didn't think
you don't care. Like, to them.
But I've learned my lesson. Yeah. Someone suggested I just go to an ATM, take out cash, and then if someone tries to do that, I just pull out cash and I drop it. You know what? I was watching
Curb. I'm
pretty
sure you gave me cash yesterday.
By the way, I was watching Curb. Yeah, no, I did that to you. I was watching Curb last night, and there was a scene like did you watch Curb? I'm not going to spoil it, but it doesn't really
matter. Was it
matter.
the season finale?
This part doesn't matter. They're at dinner, and someone gets up and like just has to like leave for a reason, and he pulls out a bunch of cash and just kind of pulls it out and just slaps it on the table and leaves. And that is like, that looks so awesome. And first of all, it saves me money. Secondly, it's a baller move. It's like, here, you guys sort it out. That's more than enough to cover my part.
And it looks like more money because on a card, you don't think about it as the actual cash. You just think about you signing something. But when you see like $60, $320, you're like, damn, dude.
If on this night I would have pulled out a $100 bill and just threw it on the table and said, later, bitches, and walked out, that would, whew. Instead, I was like crying. Instead of doing the baller move, I was over in the corner like
secretly
crying.
asking the waitress for lobster mashed potatoes to go. Yeah.
Please dig those out of the trash. So that is the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We had a little fun today. It's Thanksgiving. We're excited.
Loose.
We're excited. From our family to yours, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving. We hope you watch a lot of basketball this week, like we're going to. Tate's going back to North Carolina. I'll be in LA working, but that's okay.
Keep working.
Because that's the whole point. You've become Hollywood. You don't work. I'm a worker.
I'm going home. I got to get out of here.
I'm a salt of the earth guy, working my fingers to the bone. I'll be here. But if you want to holler at us, I'm at Club Trillion. At Tate Frazier. Do you use other social media, by the way? I notice every time I say, like, hit us up on social media, I just say Twitter because that's all I use.
I mean, I'm on Instagram, but, like, I don't know.
I am too, but I don't really use Instagram.
I don't know.
I don't know. Is that normal? Do most people just kind of gravitate to one social media, or you do the whole thing? I don't know. I found that like as I've gotten older, I've just like deleted Facebook. I've tried like the other ones. I think I might still have a Google Plus account open. I
have like I delete Snapchat.
I don't use Snapchat.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I just got Instagram because I was told by one of my bosses that I need to have one, but I don't know.
Those millennials.
Those millennials. Those young kids.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are One Shining Podcast, and that's the podcast.
Happy Turkey Day.
Save the crew.